Welcome to Agile Clips, where we break down Agile into manageable pieces. In this episode, we discuss why interest in agility has grown beyond product and engineering groups to the agility of the entire organization. Hi Santosh, how are you?
Hi Steve, how are you? Hope
Very
you had
good.
a good Thanksgiving.
Yes, excellent. How about you?
Awesome. Pretty good. Ate too much, but that's the idea.
So we were talking about business agility and how important it is and how much it's discussed these days, because at the end of the day, that's really what matters. I mean, it's great to have more agile delivery and development of products and so on, but as we've often said, if you're delivering the wrong product or just not responding to market changes fast enough due to other factors, agile development isn't in itself that useful. So today we're going to really focus on business agility, disruption, and all the different things that lead companies to want to be agile.
And that is getting a lot of attention across the entire industry, not just one area. The entire business itself is getting more involved with agile business agility, and they are seeing the fruits of successful changes to the mindset. I think, as you were mentioning earlier, it's the market that is demanding that the businesses be agile. And I think now business have to start looking inward and say, what do I need to do, or where I need to be to respond to this changing marketplace and demanding marketplace?
That's correct. There's so many examples of disruptions taking place in the marketplace. I mean, just over the weekend, I was hearing on television that the shuttle that operates out of Sacramento and a few other airports are closing their business basically because of Uber and Lyft. So we see all these kinds of disruptions all over the place in the auto industry, with Tesla suddenly appearing and now having the best-selling vehicles and so on. And companies need to really be agile in order to respond. And it's not about developing a product faster. It's about the whole mindset of the company and understanding what's going on and being very proactive and quick about changing and making that just the way they operate, so that making changes are easy.
Yeah, thing is making that change stick. I think that's the other aspect of it, is that not just one-time thing. It's actually the change has to be absorbed or adopted by the entire end-to-end organization. That means it's at the marketing level, sales, HR, operations, delivery, everything, support, and the feedback. So it's like the really organization has to be nimble and to be able to absorb the market drivers and the changes in that in a much more time effective way than previously what had to be done. I think we also see this trend happening even in the regulated markets, where typically the things used to take years before anything got approved and then it got into the mainstream. But even there, the markets are changing, that those regulated markets are organizations have to be nimble and start turning things around much more faster, like 1/3 the time or 1/5 the time that they used to take.
Yeah, and the interesting thing there is, in order for that to happen, it's not only within the company that wants to bring out a new product, but the organizations that have to validate that the product is safe also have to be more agile. And that's also true in manufacturing. When you have suppliers, basically your whole supply chain has to be much more reactive and go along with you. Otherwise, you have the wrong vendors and you have to find ones who can respond at the speed that you want to move.
Yeah. Well, I know today I was just listening to one of the I think NPR, I think they were saying that this year, because of the way the market has changed, even the seasonal hiring has changed. Like people are doing the stocking, but that is at the warehouse, and there are more drivers required than the sales agents. So it's the whole marketplace is changing, so that the businesses have to change what type of skill sets they hire and what are the things that are required, and so that the things go out the market. And even Amazon is trying to do the same day delivery or the second day delivery, and they have been investing so much money, quarter over quarter, in that aspect of it. So it's amazing that how the bigger businesses or enterprise is changing the way they do their business.
Yeah, and actually, the Amazon example is interesting because the way they manage to do same day delivery is by forecasting per region what kinds of products are most likely to be purchased and then locate the products in those warehouses.
Yeah, and they have the
So,
mini warehouses instead of these mega warehouses. So the things are like actually, distributed across the different areas. And as you said, based on their analytical probabilistic things, they will have the things, the people there, the product there ahead of time because of their predictive analytics.
correct. So it really points to the sort of business intelligence about really having the data and exploiting the data to make these kinds of decisions, and generally just being much better connected with your customers.
Yeah, and I think that's really shows the distributed decision making, like what Agile always has been talking about and has been saying is that you need to have decisions pushed down to the where the customer is, so that you can respond to the customer requirements a lot more faster instead of centralized decision making. So only the portfolio or a vision is coming up from the central organizations, but actual decisions are done at the local level.
That's right, which is sort of a good segue into one of the topics that I know we wanted to cover today, and that's the Agile Consortium has a really interesting culture DNA article, which I will put a link to in the podcast notes. And it's really interesting how they talk about some of the attributes of companies that are just about surviving, where a change in direction and priorities always cause a tremendous amount of chaos. And then the Agile leadership is really always in a firefighting mode and much more worried about their personal status than the overall success of the organization.
And I think that's where the real transition starts, is that how agile leadership can adjust will make or break the agile transformation for the organization itself, because that's where the roots comes from. The agile leader, the leadership needs to set that goal. So remember we had that a session with Chris Sims where he said leading through agile, so that the leadership says, instead of do as I say, instead of do as I do. So
Right.
it really, they have to lead by example. And if the leadership changes their ways to get into that, that's where the real impact and real transformation starts. And I think I'm seeing it everywhere, that the more buy-in from the leadership and leading by example, like the changes in marketplaces, if the vision and roadmap changes, how that get translated to the teams is the leadership's role now, to help the teams to accommodate the changes and still not get flabbergasted.
Right. What the leaders really should be focusing on is a compelling vision and driving the passion to deliver. And that's typically what you see in these companies that disrupt a market, is they have a very clear vision and they absolutely go after it with tremendous passion and almost aggression in the case of some companies,
Right.
breaking rules and taking risks. But believing in what they are really trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and I think the other thing also they do is that they then provide the air cover to the teams that okay, well, we know we don't know all the rules yet, and things might break, and we are okay. We can fix it and learn from there, and move fast with a purpose. So I think that's the key for them to change their mindset.
Yeah, tied to that, traditional companies that haven't embraced this mindset, they discourage experimentation.
Mm.
And when there's a failure, they always blame people, which causes people to be very scared to try anything different.
Yep.
So it really
Then that
prevents them from
spirals down.
innovating. Yeah,
Yeah, it
absolutely.
spirals
Yeah.
down very quickly. But I think the on the contrary, what I've seen is where the agile gets good foothold and starts innovations and collaboration is that when the leadership itself they can show that they are collaborating with other leaders to get the things moving and get the any things that go sideways, how the leaders jump in and get that moving. That's one of the changes in the roles and responsibilities that we had talked about was that the managers now are actually uh, looking at instead of day to day, they are looking at the strategic point of view as to what's coming down the pike and how are we going to respond to it, the change, and how to adjust the team so that they can still be most uh, productive. And that's their real job now instead of managing day to day stuff and assigning things to people and what their role should be and defining that. That's a big change for managers themselves.
Yeah, and the result is instead of people feeling demotivated and covering up mistakes, you get to a situation where people really feel great fulfillment from their work and they really help promote the business and the vision of the business and so on. And there was a really interesting study that was done at Google where they looked at all the teams that were very successful
Uh-huh.
and were trying to figure out what did they have in common, and they really struggled to understand what was that factor or a couple of factors in common between all the most successful teams. And eventually they figured out it was psychological safety.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what they also said were the teams that communicated more often and more effectively were the most successful teams. They did not have the star players in them, but they were able to talk to each other in a much more safe environment kind of thing. And then the ideas flowed and they were the most successful teams out of that.
Right, so that speaks to the fact that for a business to be really agile, you need every part of the business to be working in the same direction. And what I'm thinking of in particular is HR and the way that people are rewarded, where we tend to unfortunately reward
Individual.
the individuals, the catches, the heroics
Yeah.
instead of what the team achieved. So the bonuses typically encourage exactly the wrong behavior.
Yeah. One of the things that they showed was that if you generate this diving catch culture, people look for generating those diving catch opportunities. So and that's like the most counterproductive way of looking at things because then they have to prove their self-importance.
Yeah,
And
it's almost like purposely creating bugs in the software so you can show that you fixed more.
yeah. One of the things that I was talking to one of the conferences, they were like, "Oh, since we have this big concept of no handoff teams, it was a very foreign and very scary things for them. But then when they realize that those type of teams, when they are very tightly coupled in that respect, uh, the problems never showed up because they were being taken care of at that level. Unless there was things which were outside of their capabilities, those were the only ones where that really happened. where they needed help. So things started happening much more faster when the teams were cohesive and nobody thought that, oh, I just need to hand it over to them. No, they were part of it. And that was the another big, I guess, mindset change and organizational change. And then, then people were okay with saying, hey, reward the team instead of just me.
So I think there is really no framework as such for business agility. I mean, you could argue that the scaled agile framework is all designed to create business agility, but for the most part, it really is a mindset, and there are all kinds of methodologies that you can apply, and you can use lean and Scrum for certain parts of the organization. But what this is really talking about is something that goes across the board, and it's more to do with mindset and approach and management than it is just a set of guidelines that you can follow.
Yeah, it's almost like what we used to call soft skills. So it is very much improving the soft skills of the entire organization, not just particular group of people. And that's where the real gain or benefits come from. And one of the other things that I also noticed in this whole thing was then people, or from the management point of view also, they started realizing that how is the sausage being made? I mean, they didn't care before, but now they actually were at least aware of it. They didn't have to know how to do it, but they were aware of it, and that made the decision making also a lot more educated, and that created a streamline effect of how to respond to any changes or any directives coming from the markets.
Mm-hmm. Right. Good. I think we covered this topic pretty well. There are a lot of aspects to it. It's hard to pinpoint any one thing. It's really to do with the mindset, as we said. It involves all different parts of an organization that have to really believe in this approach of being responsive and not bureaucratic and taking risks. And every organization will do things slightly differently, but those, I think, are some of the common factors that.
Yeah, and I think it happens from both ends, in the sense that the management at the top level leadership establishes that flexible mindset, and innovation come from the bottom up. So the innovations and things are the focus and the vision. They join together. That's the idea behind mindset changing.
Correct. Good.
All right. This we can talk about it for a long time, because there are so many things in this aspect of it. Maybe we should consider making a series of this, because this is very intriguing part. This is just the scratch of the surface.
Yeah, definitely. We could probably just have a whole episode regarding innovation and learning.
Yeah.
What that means.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
We could do that.
Very good.
All right.
Thank you, Santosh.
Thank
you
you
to everyone. Bye.
Bye.